Hi, I would like to welcome you today to the 8 biggest business challenges and how executive reporting can help you solve them. I am Keith Reno from Acema Solutions, and today we just wanted to deal with a 30-minute overview of the topic. You can certainly get a lot more detailed into the executive reporting, but that can be for a later time. For the agenda today, what we want to talk about is what are those 8 challenges and just what specifically issues are detailed in them. Then we want to just go through the executive reporting and taking a look at it from a slightly different view, because executive reporting can help us with insight, which is number one, then empowerment, then going into how we can use fact-based decision-making with these reporting engines, the timely delivery of information, and accurate, relevant information and how that can help. And so what we want to do is take these 5 different views on executive reporting and just deal with how it can solve those challenges which are up above. And then finally, what we want to talk about is just the keys to successfully implementing one of these systems, and then finally finishing it up with questions. So what are the 8 business challenges? And so certainly in the industry today, there is lots of other stuff going on, but these are kind of the 8 global ones that are out there. And the number one thing when you talk to companies and what's going on is the uncertainty. And so really it's how do you deal with this uncertainty? It's the uncertainty with governments. It's the uncertainty with regulations. It's the uncertainty with the competition, the uncertainty with the economy. I mean, oil prices are certainly down in the tank right now. What is that going to have as an effect? And so the bottom line is that we need to come up with a solution that can balance reactive short-term focus with an informed long-term strategy. And so because we cannot just keep looking just a couple months or a year ahead, we must look forward further than that, maybe out 5 years, to help us with this stuff. And so what we want to talk about is just how can we help with reporting. The other challenge, which is certainly out there, is globalization. And so with globalization, I mean, the world is becoming smaller and smaller, and so now our competition is not just next door in the next province or in the next state. It is all over the world, and therefore we must make sure that we're understanding what the international markets and cultures are like, and we have to understand and get information and analysis on what effect these will have on us. Because if all of a sudden China comes in with a competitive product or can do something much more ineffective or effectively, it is going to have a major impact on our companies. Then innovation, and this is a big one because for me, I mean, innovation is one of those holy grails, in that we have got so many companies that are just not being innovative enough. If you read that one article by the Business Development Bank on the 5 do's and don'ts, one of the key points in there is innovation and how the companies that are more innovative are more successful. And so how do we get there? Because we have to become more innovative, and yet we have to maintain control. Then dealing with government policy and regulation, and this is certainly a big one here in Alberta, just because of the new government, the new NDPs that have got voted in, and what exactly is going to be happening with the regulations and policies. You know, what are they going to be doing with the oil and gas? Are they going to be increasing the royalties? And so this is affecting all jurisdictions, but right now in Alberta, this is certainly a big one. And then technology. Technology, again, it kind of relates to the innovation piece, but technology, we must develop a long-term strategy and remain flexible, for unforeseen changes. Because I'll tell you what, it's basically one of this SMAC, and it's the SMAC stands for Social, Mobile, Analytic, and Cloud. And so what are these impacts going to be with technology? If you talk to the guys from Blockbuster, you'll find out that they're out of business because Netflix simply took them over. And that is just a technology change that happened, and you have to be able to take a look and see what's going on and hopefully see that coming. Then we're talking about diversity. And diversity is one of these other issues that's coming. I mean, we're being more diverse, especially in Canada with the culture. And this is all over the world because, as I said before, with the globalization, the world is becoming smaller. And we also have diversity in our labor. I mean, what we've got is the young people coming out now have certainly got a completely different attitude than the millennials, and we certainly have a different view than the older people out there. And so, how do we deal with these differing ideas, and how do we cohesively put them together into a culture and an environment which is open to it? And so again, it's a big issue. How do we deal with that particular block? So the next one is complexity, and it's just because we've got so much information coming in. There's so many different systems coming in. Things are not, like they were in the 1900s, and they're moving much faster. And so how do we develop a system for thinking, right, to streamline and try to minimize this unnecessary complexity? Because you can, if you're trying to look at all of the stuff, you have inactivity. And I think there's a saying that says even if you're on the right track and you're standing still, you're eventually going to get run over. And so this is just another stumbling block that we deal with in business. And how do we deal with that with reporting? And then information overload, and this is huge. I mean, if you think about now, I know that every morning you get up and you get your emails, and you're looking at 50 emails in there, and you're going, all right, how much of these are relevant? And so it's how do we convert this huge amount of information into something which is usable? Okay, so now let's deal with the next, and let's go through it from the point of view from management reporting. So let's start off with insight and visibility. And so this is the first big one as far as what reporting systems do, and they help us identify trends and patterns. And again, so what is that going to do? Well, it's going to reduce the uncertainty because we can view what's happening real time, short term and long term. What the systems can do is they can actually pull this information down, give it to us in a distilled point of view, so that we can actually make decisions which are hopefully going to help us with that uncertainty. And then gain a better understanding of your business, because lots of companies just really don't understand what's going on in their business and their environments. And so understanding the globalization effects, right? What is going to happen if we take a look at this data and say, okay, we've got a new competitor coming in from overseas. How is it going to affect our company? Reducing complexity and distilling, as I said before, this information overload. And so it gives us an understanding of where we're going, and we can actually grab the information that we need and put it into a format that is understandable by us poor humans. Next one is transforming data into actionable information. And this is critical, because if we're sitting down just looking at the information and not actually moving forward, it becomes that inactivity, and that is unacceptable over the long haul. So what are the analysis of possible effect of innovation and technology? And so we can do these what-if analyses with these reporting systems that can help us. And the analysis of possible effects of diverse ideas. So if someone comes in and says, hey, this thing seems to be, and gives you an idea which is kind of off the wall, how do we deal with that? And so if we've got some reporting systems, maybe we can go out there and just kind of take a look at this and say, okay, this is the effect of that particular idea. So let's just deal with it from, this is a reporting engine from Info Explorer, but understand is that I can put this in any of the information which is out there. And so if I want to see what's going on with my customers, if I want to have a graph which is talking about salespeople, this one here is a little bit, limited. But the bottom end is that if we can build a dashboard that can give us the information which is distilled, it gives us the visibility into our companies and what's happening real time, because this information is connected straight to those systems. Now, this is an excellent website, and you may want to take a look at this stuff later on, but it's the KPIs, and so KPIs is those key predictive indicators, and the bottom line is this, is that you need to determine, what are your key drivers. If you talk about Southwest Airlines, theirs was Wheels Up, which is making sure that the airlines were always on time. They're always, wheels up and flying when they were supposed to be flying. But what is the key predictive indicators for your particular company? And so this website can help you with that, but you need to make sure that this is happening, is that you have to make sure that you choose wisely, because the bottom line is if you pull up the wrong indicator and people are driving to that, and it's not exactly being in the direction that your company needs to go, it can have a significantly poor impact or a positive impact on you. So let's deal about the next one as far as empowerment with the employees. And so with these executive systems, what you have got the availability is executives and employees don't have to wait, right? They can get the information when they want it. They don't have to waste time with the reporting tools. And so right now, if you're moving data across into an Excel spreadsheet and then trying to manipulate it into something which is usable, that is a complete waste of time, especially from an executive point of view and to any of your employees, right? So what we want to be able to do is grab the information in a format that we need when we want it. This is a self-sufficiency which is out there. And so this will help us reduce the uncertainty of our decisions at all levels. It reduces the overload and the complexity, and it allows us to look at diverse views. There's multiple diverse views of the data. And I'll show you that just in the next the slide on that. But understand is that what you want to have it is so the employees can grab information and get it in a format that they need without having to go and play with the data. Okay? Then solutions must be easy to use, right? Or they won't get used, and that's the bottom line. So we have to balance the hype of technology, because you're looking at it and you're gonna see guys doing presentations for you where they're coming back and they're going, oh, look at the sizzle, right? Look at this fancy thing that you can do. But you have to understand what is the underlying technology that's happening, and is it easy to use, and is it practical knowledge, right? Is it practical? And that's the bottom line of all of these solutions, to making sure that they actually work. Because the analysis of the possible effects of innovation, technology, and diverse ideas to help us plan is really what we're after. And so if we're going to go to the next slide here, which is just talking about, and this is again the Info Explorer, but understand this is coming from an analysis of the salespeople, right? And so if you're looking at that and you're saying, okay, well, what's the red and the greens and all about, and what's this orange stuff? Well, really what it is just a conditional field, which is saying, this is the stuff I want to highlight. Because if you're looking at your salespeople and going, hey, they're selling this, it's really doing good, but it's in red. What the red is saying is that the margin is just too low. And if the margin's too low, then you're not making enough money, right? And eventually it's going to have a significant impact on your company. And so what it allows us to do is distill the information so that we can, as I said, poor humans, look at this and make decisions which are who are the good salesmen, who are the bad ones. And I can slice and dice this data by dropping and dragging the different information down, right, onto these screens, so that it changes the different viewpoints so that I can get the information when I want it, when I need it, how I need it. So let's deal with the next one, which is better decision making based on facts. And this is something which kind of seems like a misnomer. I mean, the bottom line is that if we're not doing decisions based on fact, what the heck are we doing them on? Is it intuition, right? And so the bottom line is if we don't know all of the information, we are probably making errors in our judgments. And so if these systems can actually help, right, with the reporting that must support the efficient and effective running of your organization. So give me the information that I need so that I can make wise decisions. It's not going to be perfect, but the bottom line is if it helps us, it's certainly going to make us more profitable in the long haul. So with this, we can reduce the complexity in operations. We can evaluate innovations, right, and technology and see what they're happening or what will happen in a real-time basis on the data. We never guess about government regulations or the effect of diverse ideas. And so the bottom line is that we can take a look at the government regulations and then do what-if analysis on this stuff to give us the information on what the effect is going to be. Again, it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to help. And the last one is that executive employees want to know the real health of the business, okay? And so this real health is taking a look at those analyses that we're talking about and just seeing, what is happening in our company, what's going on with our inventory. And the next slide is going to be talking about that, but it just helps us reduce this information overload, the complexity of all of the stuff, just so that we can sit down and analyze the information at a basis that makes sense. And then this conditional formatting, and that's what we showed in that prior slide, where it was talking about this conditional formatting here. But the bottom end is conditional formatting can highlight the anomalies so that they can make us make decisions on a more timely basis. So better decision making based on fact is important, okay? And so if we go into this next one, and this is just an Excel spreadsheet, and this is coming from the inventory analysis tool, which is available in a Sage world, right? But what it allows you to do is just break down your inventory, right, and look at it from the different views on, you know, whether it's location, product line, whatever. But this is just giving you an analysis so that you can understand the information which is happening in your companies. Okay, timely delivery. And so timely delivery is critical because I can get information, and you know, it's kind of funny because we're dealing with the economic development, and they're doing the stats on gross domestic product, and they're coming in about a year behind, and you're going, you know, really that's a little bit late. It is valuable information, but, you know, can we get it in a more timely fashion? And say, so the bottom line is if we can get the information more timely, when we need it, we can gain a competitive advantage by being the first to understand, right? And this is both internal and external, right? So internal information in the company and how we're doing, and externally on what's going on in the economy and in other places. And so this certainly would help us reduce the uncertainty, you know, from the competition, globalization, you know, like what's happening out there as far as in China, right? Is their economy going down or going up? If our products are being mainly sold over into that particular economy, what are the effects of that? And so this timely delivery of information is certainly going to give us an advantage. But it helps us evaluate, you know, the effect of innovation, technology, diverse ideas, right? And again, it's in this timely fashion. So what can we do with that stuff? And so then accelerate the process of change to reduce cost and improve productivity. And again, this is certainly something which must be in all companies' minds. In Canada, we actually lag behind the U.S. in our productivity. And so any improvement that we can make in our individual companies is going to help with this, not only from the Canadian point of view, but from your own point of view, because you're going to be more profitable. And so if we can automate the distribution of reports to our various managers or to our various supervisors, and we can help them reduce the complexity and information overload, and hopefully help them reduce the cost, improve the revenue, and improve the productivity. It'll help us all. So let's just take a look at another report. And this is just another report that's available, and this is just a monthly cash flow. And so understanding, I mean, you know, would it be valuable for your companies to understand exactly where your cash position is and where it's going to be in the future? Because this one here is not predicting in the future right now, but you can make these systems do that by just making analyses in these systems so that it's taking the current receivables, payables, taking your current cash position, and then just pushing it out a little bit. And so you can do that as well as far as where your future forecasting of cash position is, plus where you are right now. So we can do all of that stuff with these systems, and you can see we can break it down into various tabs in here. But these are just, again, a reporting engine that'll allow you to break down the information that you guys require. So accuracy and relevance, and this again seems like kind of a motherhood one, because if the information's not accurate, what the heck you got? But quality and consistent data improves with unified and integrated view of all your data. And so understand, what are we saying here is that if we can get the data so that it is always of a very consistent quality, right? We know that it's correct. We know that it's pulling from real information. We were dealing with a big project management company. They had 3 separate systems. And with the 3 separate systems, they were getting reporting for project managers out of one system. They were getting reporting out of their accounting system. And the project managers, they were going, hey, we're really, really doing good, right? And the actual financial system was saying they're not doing so good. And so the bottom line is that these guys stopped relying on the information that they were getting. They were getting inconsistent data, and the quality of it was not that good. And so what happens is it was actually increasing instead of reducing the uncertainty. And because they had 3 systems, they were getting this huge information overload, right? They were getting it from all different areas. And the complexity of the system, nobody knew what was going on in any one of the systems. And therefore, it caused this huge, I guess, inactivity in the company because they had to spend time just trying to figure out where they were really. Okay? So regulatory compliance. And so if you have to be compliant with a particular issue and you've got inaccurate data or it's not being consistently pulled, it can cause you huge problems with the governments, right? If your environmental tracking is not on time, all of a sudden you're in the front page news because you did something that was not necessarily in the best interest of everybody. And how do you compete globally? Because the economies are the jurisdictions, especially U.S., is completely different than it is in Canada. Down in the U.S., when you're dealing with sales taxes, it is significantly more complex than it is in Canada. And what effect is that going to have? You have to have a quality and consistency of your reporting. Then another major one that's down here is spreadsheets are not automation, and you've got to understand that. They can wreak havoc on the quality and consistency of data because what happens is people are keying this stuff in, and there's a stat which is out there which says if you've been using a spreadsheet for more than 1 year, there's a 100% chance that there is an error or a calculation problem in that spreadsheet. And I've actually, since I've read that, gone through all of the spreadsheets that I use, and we do use some of them here. But the bottom end, it is correct. Every time I found that there's always something over time that goes into these spreadsheets. So what happens is that it creates more of an uncertainty and complexity in our decision making because we just don't have reliable data, right? And the other major one that's down here is it creates this silo of information which really causes a problem with the diversity and the planning for technology. If you've got these silos of information where somebody's got it but somebody else doesn't have it, and they're making poor decisions based on, because I think differently than you, it's going to have a significant effect on our companies. And so what are we talking about with the unified approach, integrated approach? And it's just, having our accounting systems, because it's not just the accounting, right? I'm an anal retentive accountant, and I believe that, the world revolves around accounting, but there is other sources of information as well. And it's taking both sources of information and pulling it in. You can possibly have a warehouse, right? But you need to generate all of this through a consistent fashion so that we're getting the reports in a format that we need when we need it, but it needs to be consistent. That's the key. Here was just a joke that I found, and I thought it was absolutely appropriate. I didn't have accurate numbers, so I just made up one, right? And then he's talking about, the inaccurate numbers are just as good as the ones that you get, right? And then he's talking about how many studies, and he comes up with a very accurate 87. And so the problem is that this is common in the industry. And how do we eliminate this? This is the problem, is trying to get the information that we need, when we need it, how we need it. And so as a summary, really what we want to talk about is this. So how can reporting help? By providing insight, visibility into your business, you can reduce the uncertainty and complexity. You can help understand the effects of globalization and technology. By empowering your employees with self-sufficiency and let them go in and get the information, right, you can reduce the information overload from not only the executives but for everyone in your company that needs the information and reduce the complexity. And hopefully this is going to give us this better management decision making based on facts, right? Give us the real information in a format that I can understand, and this will help us make better decisions. And timely information is obviously follows right with that, because if the information is more timely, it allows us to make better information on a more timely basis so that we aren't waiting for a month to get the information. We can do it in a week or a day. And only having accurate and relevant information certainly, again, reduces the uncertainty and assists us with compliance of regulations. And this will keep us hopefully out of hot water. And so let's just go into the next, which is what are the keys to success of a reporting system? And understand is that without a specific purpose, it is doubtful that any reporting solution will have a major impact on your business. And what it's saying is this, is that if you don't focus on what you're really trying to, what information do I need, who needs it, and why do they need it, when do they need it? If we don't do that, then the system is going to just give us all kinds of stuff, which is just more complexity, more uncertainty, okay? And so we need to make sure that we've got a purpose. What do we want to solve? And then we need to sit down and say, okay, we must create a systematic approach to information acquisition, analysis, and development. Because if we don't make some consistencies, if we don't have processes in place which give us this information, right, then it's not going to happen. And so we have to create a very systematic way to get this information, and these executive reporting systems can do that. And they can help us with the analysis and development. And then the last one is we must solve for a specific problem. As I was saying before, what is the particular problem that you want to solve? Let's do one thing at a time. Focus on it and make sure that we've got the information in a timely fashion in the right context so that we can do our job as executives and move our companies forward. And then let's just deal with some success rules. And so understand, if you don't measure results, right, you can't tell success from failure. And that's huge, right? And if we cannot see success, we cannot reward it, right? And if we're not rewarding success, guess what happens? Then, other people that are not doing so well get to say, hey, it's not my problem, right? And the guy that is doing good or, really is not getting rewarded as they should be. And so if you cannot reward success, you are probably rewarding for failure, right? And so understand these are critical if you're really thinking about your businesses, right? If you cannot see success, then you cannot learn from it. So you cannot make it so that everybody is following that same lead and doing things which is in the best interest of your company. And then if we cannot recognize failure, you cannot correct it, right? Same problem as the success, right? Because the guys that are failing and not doing, the margins, like you've got your top salesman, but his margins stink, how do you correct that? And the bottom line is if you can demonstrate results, really results, and show an improvement, then you're going to win support to actually help you move the company forward. And so these are kind of motherhood type things, but understand that in the executive reporting world, these are critical to the success or failure of that particular project. So that ends up our session for today. So thank you very much on behalf of Acima Solutions. If you do need any other information, please follow up with our contact information.